Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to share with you a recommendation video. I try to do more of these because I know that a lot of people love them. They're always kind of hard to do for me because I have such a bad memory, so talking about books that I've read like a year ago, sometimes it's a bit of a struggle for me and I just don't want to seem dumb in this video. So we'll try our best, but last year I did a recommendation video of my favorite books by Black authors, and that was just like the top list. So I would definitely recommend you go check it out. It is Black History Month in the US, so I think a lot more people are looking for recommendations of books by Black authors, and to kind of help with that, I thought I'd do one as well. And this time I want to share like my favorite books by Black authors I've read in the last year. This is kind of the updated version from last year's video, even though I would say that not all of these have like the same like all-time favorite standing that the books from that other video have. But let's just talk about some great books by Black authors I've read in the last year. So the first one I wanted to mention is Bitter by Akwaeke Emezi. I have read Pet and absolutely love that. That one is actually in the last video from last year. But then I also read Bitter, which is the prequel to that. And in Bitter, we are following a young girl who's growing up in a time of unrest, and she has some anxiety, so she doesn't deal with all that unrest super well. It makes her very anxious, and she's looking for a way to just get through personally. And I really love this book. It deals with art a lot because our main character is an artist. And it also deals with this idea that when there are like protests or just in general, when people are fighting for their rights, you can only do what you can do. Like you have to find out what are the ways that you can help, and that will look different for every person. And I really just like that kind of sentiment, that even though maybe because if you have anxiety you can't go out in the streets protesting, that there is still ways you can help. And yeah, I really enjoyed that book. It is YA, but I think it is a book that, you know, everyone can enjoy. I definitely enjoyed it in my 30s, so yeah, would definitely recommend. The next book is also YA, and with that one I feel like it is more like targeted towards that group, and that is The Long Way Down by Reynolds. But I thought this book was so important when I read it last year, even though it might not be important to me personally. It's just one of those books where I thought it is so great that this book exists. In this one we are following a young boy, a teenager, who sees his brother shot in the street, and he decides to take revenge. And we are following him in the elevator as he's going down from the floor where he lives and where he retrieved his brother's gun to the ground floor to leave the building and take the revenge. And during this elevator ride, he starts meeting people and have conversations with them, mainly about expectations and the way that we think that people would expect stuff from us, but those people would actually want us to do something very different. So for example, as you could probably guess, that this character thinks that his family, his brother, his father would want him to take revenge for the killing, but instead what those people want actually is for him to be safe, for him to grow up to have a life, you know? And yeah, I get goosebumps when I think about it. It's very beautiful. It's also written in verse. And yeah, it's just a wonderful book. And I think if you want to, definitely check it out. But as I said, this one has a very specific target audience, and I really hope that a lot of those young boys who struggle with these themes find this book. Then the next book in my absolute favorite series is Bloodmarked. This is the second book to Legendborn, and I read it in the last year. And this series is just so good. It is also YA, and this is kind of funny to me because I don't read a lot of YA books anymore, but when I read them, it seems to be predominantly from like Black authors or Indigenous authors, authors of color in general, so that's kind of funny. But yeah, in this one we are following, or in this series we are following a girl called Bree. She enters into one of those like early college thingies that the US seems to have. So I think she's 16 in the first book. She enters into this college, and she's actually there to kind of figure out what happened to her mother, because her mother died. And when Bree enters the school, there is something happening that she thinks has something to do with her mother's death. So she goes to investigate, and she finds this secret society. This is a kind of King Arthur retelling loosely. So we have kind of like this inspiration with the secret society and stuff. I absolutely love this series. I think it is interesting, it is thrilling, it is creative. I love the main character. I still have hopes that in the end we will get a poly relationship out of this series, which would be so great. And there is some romance in both of these books, but with different boys. And there also in the past has been some romantic things between the two boys. So I love that. I just think it's great. It's a very diverse series, so we have racial diversity, we have gender diversity, sexuality. It is just great. I love this series so much, and I can't wait for the third book. Okay, so now the next books are adult, so if you're not into the YA, there will be some recommendations as well. And the first book is actually a classic I've read last year and absolutely loved, and that is Passing by Nella Larsen. In this book, we are following two women who knew each other when they were young, and they kind of reconnect. But one of those women is white passing, so she married a white man, and he is a racist, and so he doesn't know that she's not white. And the other woman we are following is also, she could also pass for white, and she does it in some smaller instances when it suits her, but she married a black man. They're still a very wealthy family. Her husband is a doctor, and so they kind of reconnect, and we can see how our main character, who has a black husband and lives as a black woman, how she is like fascinated with this other woman, but at the same time she doesn't really like her, but she also can't really let go because of her like weird fascination with her life. And so this is a very short book. It's a very quick read. The writing style is so accessible. I think that when you read it, it almost reads like it is written today. Like you would not believe that this book is almost 100 years old. And it has this like 1920s affectation and like the dialogue. I love that. It definitely gave me those like 20s Gatsby vibes with that. And it's just so fascinating. I loved that book, and I hope more people read it. Another adult book that deals with a very interesting topic was Silver Sparrow by Tayari Jones. This is a book that deals with a man who has two families. So he has his like public family, and then he has a secret family. And in both, he has a daughter. They're almost the same age. In the first half, we follow the perspective of the daughter, who is the secret one. And then in the second half, we follow the public daughter. And obviously there will be things that lead to the point where it all comes out, and we're kind of following that process, the way that these two girls deal with it. We also see how their mothers deal with it through the daughter's eyes. And it was just very fascinating. It was a book that I have read so quickly, also because I had to bring it back to the library, but also it was just so interesting, and yeah, it's just a topic that I hadn't really thought about a lot. And what I also found so interesting is that in the end of the book, the author mentioned that after writing it, she got so many messages by people who actually were those secret children, those silver sparrows, and that it touched her so much to give them a book where they kind of felt seen with that. So yeah, it was really, really good. Not a new favorite book for me personally, but definitely one about a topic I hadn't really thought about, and such an interesting exploration. I think my biggest issue I had with it is that I wanted the ending to be different. I think it ends in a very realistic way, and I would have liked a more idealistic ending, I would say. Then we have some novellas, and the first one is Even Though I Knew the End by C.L. Polk. This is a novella where we follow a woman who kind of made a deal. So she knows she's going to die very soon, but she's kind of like a detective. This has kind of this noir feel to it, but it also has fantasy elements, so there's angels and demons and stuff. And she's kind of a magical detective, and she's trying to find a serial killer before her time runs out, basically. And she's also in a relationship with another woman, and I loved seeing their relationship. I really enjoyed that this was an established relationship where we just see two people spending their lives together. It's not about them falling in love, it's about them being together. I really enjoyed that. And just overall, it was a very fun, entertaining story that I enjoyed very much. And then the other novella is Ring Shout by P. Djeli Clark. And this one was really great. This is also fantasy. It is one of those alternate history ones. And we are following a group of women who are hunting monsters. And these particular monsters are called Ku Kluxes because they target the Ku Klux Klan members. And so within those ranks, there will be these monsters that our main characters, or like our group of characters that we're following, are hunting. And so we have amazing, awesome, badass black women hunting white supremacist monsters. It's everything you could ask for. I really liked it. It gets very, very crazy and creepy. The like bigger boss monsters are just so creepy, and I loved it. I really, really loved it. It's such a fun romp, and I would highly recommend Ring Shout. It's so good. And then I have a little duology that I very much enjoyed, and that is Blackout and Whiteout by Dhonielle Clayton and a host of other authors like Nick Stone and Angie Thomas, and yeah, all the other ones. I can't say them all off the top of my head. But this is a little duology. The books are not connected, I think. At least I didn't notice it. But they follow a very similar structure where we have kind of a frame story and then short stories within that frame. And all of these are love stories involving black teens. The Blackout one is set during a blackout in New York, and the Whiteout one is set during a whiteout, but I forgot where. I'm sorry. Like, US cities are just names to me. I'm sorry. You have these like love stories. They're very cute, very sweet. And it's just, you know, these little like feel-good books. Again, just books where I'm just happy they exist. Having like the black joy as a focus and just romance between all of these teenagers. Some are queer romances and some are just romances with like heterosexual characters. So yeah, there is a bit of diversity in there as well. And then the last book is a little bit of an add-on because I've just finished it, and that is The Secret Lives of Church Ladies by Deesha Philyaw. Now this is a short story collection. It has 9 stories and we are following different Black women who are navigating their lives, their relationships, their sexuality, their faith. And it was just glorious. Like, all of these stories were so good. I did not give a single one a lower rating than 4 stars as individual stories, and I gave 2 5 stars because they were just fantastic to me personally. The stories are also very different from one another. They vary in length, but also in topic, and sometimes the characters are teenagers, sometimes the characters are in their 30s, sometimes they are great grandmothers. So I really love that collection. I think this is what to me Girl, Woman, Other should have been. That did not work for me, but this collection, The Secret Lives of Church Ladies, is just perfection. And I'm pretty sure that the author will have a new book soon, so I'm very excited to check that one out as well. So these would be the recommendations I have for you. Now I kindly ask you to leave a recommendation for me in the comments, just a book that you really loved by a Black author recently. I would love to hear about that. And I will talk to you very soon. Bye!